Hi there, this is a roughly 20-minute presentation about how to manage staff who are working from home and how to support them with their health and well-being and their workspace that they are working with. And it's not just about, as this picture might make you think, it's not just about managing their paperwork. I remember when I worked in an office and we had a fantastic filing clerk who dealt with all that paperwork, and paperwork is my nemesis when I work from home. But that is not what this presentation is about. It's about how to create a workspace that is going to support the health and well-being of those team members who work from home in your organization. So in terms of workspace is a very controlled environment. And whilst for white collar workers, professionals who would be working in an office or working at a computer, it might not feel like your everyday life is as controlled as the robots that you would see on a production line. But in fact, the workspace does exercise a lot of control over our actions and over our behaviors and over our interactions with other people. And it's very carefully, even office workspace is very carefully designed in order to manage these kinds of actions, behaviors, and interactions. And so although you may not feel like a robot exactly, you're not programmed and forced to do things in certain ways, the environment around you, it is guiding certain aspects. It's a very controlled and managed environment. It manages everything from temperature, lighting, privacy, equipment you're using. The health and safety risks are designed out in terms of like the cable runs, cleaning, and then in terms of the space itself, the size and the location of the tea stations, the number and locations of toilets, all of these different things and many more are thought about very carefully by the design team. Now, I know it doesn't seem like it. You look at a space like this, it's an office space. It in some ways looks kind of haphazard, but actually there is so much control and management over that space. And the way that it's designed, it is designed in a way that it's not meant to feel like your time and your actions are managed, but that is designed to do that. So the design of workspace is based on company values, company culture, team structure, delivery requirements, company branding, as well as health and safety requirements. All these different aspects and more are going into the strategy of designing the space that you're working in. And space actually can define and limit and restrict just as much as it can enable and support the types of actions and interactions that people make. You can see it, you will recognize this in, for example, how meeting spaces are set up. If you have a long, narrow meeting space with a long rectangular table where people are sat around, then the person at the head is the one who's going to be in control. Whereas if you have a completely different kind of meeting space with a circular table, and everybody sat around that table is like an equal, like King Arthur's round table, then that setup is a very different scenario. The relationships between the people sat around that table are very different, and the outcome of those kinds of meetings, the way that they progress can be very different. And these are some of the subtle ways that your space, the environment around you, can actually kind of manipulate you into behaving and acting and reacting, interacting with other people in a different way. This can be seen in how reception spaces are set up. They very frequently are the first port of call, and perhaps to some extent the one of only very few places where guests, visitors, potential collaborators, potential clients may actually see, and they represent very strongly the brand and the values of the company. And then how team desks are arranged, how you are sat in relation to your co-workers, that will have an effect on your team dynamics. as will things like location of the printer, the water cooler, the restroom, and every other feature in the office is carefully considered in terms of those, the culture, the brand, the team requirements, teamwork, individual work, all of these different things are all considered very carefully. So when you're working from home, when you have staff working from home, they're out of sight and you have no control over that workspace. As a company, there is no ability to control that space in anywhere near the same way. Maybe you can have some influence by providing certain equipment, by providing a laptop or a computer, by providing a chair and a desk. These things can start to have some influence about the workspace at home, but actually the location of that workspace within the home, which room it's in, what else is happening in that space, who else is around whilst your member of staff is working there. These are things that you have no control over, really. So you may have these questions. What's happening there? What are they hiding? Are they really doing what they should be doing? And for people who want to be working from home, they see this as a freedom. Although they may not be consciously aware of all the different ways that workspace is designed to manage actions and behaviors and relationships within that space, they certainly do feel that sense of freedom when it comes to not having to work in the office and being able to work from home. And this is become such a norm now. And it's not just that it's a norm, it's something that's highly desirable. The Google search term remote jobs has massively skyrocketed over the last 5 years. And according to McKinsey report, 87% of employees, if they were offered remote or hybrid work, they will accept it. So, even if they're not seeking it, they'll accept it. The vast majority of people, whereas there are huge numbers of people who are actively seeking to work from home now. And in 2024, the gates of the prison that is working from the office, obviously this is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but there is new legislation coming in 2024 around flexible working. And what that means is that flexible working is going to become a day one right. And that means that it's very likely that more new members of staff are going to request to work from home from day one. And as employers responsible with a duty of care for your staff, you probably are already very aware that you have an equal responsibility for the staff who work on site in the office as you do for the staff who are working from home. And failures can be prosecuted not just with fines, but also with a prison sentence. It is both civil and criminal law. So it's a very tricky situation to be in, because on the one hand, you have exactly the same level of responsibility, but on the other hand, you have far less control over the workspace, which is something that actually does create a huge amount of potential risks, not just for physical health, but also for mental health, and also has, it's scary. It is scary as somebody who's managing a team of staff when they are not there in the office. You don't have the same level of oversight and you don't have the same ability to manage that team. It's a different scenario. And it's not to say that it's a bad thing. It's just that it's very different, and it's something that we are all still getting used to. But we all know there are lots and lots of work from home benefits. As their work from home staff know, there are lots of benefits for them, of course, but there are also many benefits for businesses when they have staff working from home. And some of these business benefits have been found to be greater productivity, Lower carbon footprint. Apparently, staff who work from home use a lot less plastics, for example, than staff who go to work in the office. All those meal deals with the crisp packets and the chocolate bars and the packets of sandwiches, a lot less plastics needed when you're not buying those meal deals and you're working from home and you're having your lunch at home. So there's a great climate impact difference. There's more flexibility for how you use your office space. When your space is freed up and you don't have so many staff working there, then you can rearrange that space and use it in different, more innovative ways, and that gives you a lot more flexibility. It can mean that you can reduce the amount of office space that you have and reduce the amount of overheads that you have. It can help you to retain staff. It can help you to recruit staff. You are not so limited to the staff within a specific geographic area, and instead you're able to select staff from a much wider pool of talent. It can reduce absenteeism, and it can reduce the wage increase pressure, because staff who are working from home already get some more financial benefits from that. They don't have the cost of traveling, commuting to the office. They don't have perhaps the cost of the coffee in the morning on their way in, or the meal deal that they're buying at lunchtime. All of these costs add up, and when they work from home, they don't have those costs, so it can really benefit them financially in that respect, and then reduce the pressure that the business has from the staff, because they're not necessarily looking for a higher wage when they're working from home. But the thing is, to make this tasty cake as tasty as it can be, we need to get this work from home recipe right. Right for you and right for the staff, right for the company, right for the management team who are managing the staff who are remote working, and right for the staff who are working from home. So there are lots of practical steps that you can take to ensure that workers have a safe place to work when they're at home, and so that you meet your duty of care under the health and safety legislation. These things include risk assessment, training, supervision, monitoring, and maintaining regular contact. And these are all great things to do. But the thing is that sick leave is on the rise. We now have the highest reported rate of sick leave in a decade. So the reasons behind that are the two largest reasons are musculoskeletal, which 45% of absences are due to musculoskeletal issues, despite most workers having access to ergonomics training. So that's something to be aware of. And well-being, the 39% of absences are due to mental ill health. And that's despite having many great organisations are delivering well-being training to their staff on many topics, including things like healthy habits, meditation, incorporating transition rituals. All of these things are great things, but it's just not enough. That ergonomics training and the mental health and the well-being practices, despite that, the ill health rates are still rising. So it's great that there's ergonomics being taught, it's great that there's well-being training being taught, but it's possibly that it's not as effective as it could be, because those well-being habits, they're great to do, but they take willpower and motivation to implement consistently, and that can be difficult to do when you've got a busy job and you've got other things on your plate. And the ergonomics training, like, fundamentally, it's quite boring. So and yes, you can implement it, but it's often very basic, and there's a lot more to it than just those standard recorded or diagrams of how to set up your office space really will lead us to believe. So what I suggest is taking a much more proactive role, a proactive approach, and looking at the space itself and how it can support staff and create more ease, more pleasure, and more harmony in their lives. I know that they're not going to feel like they're lying on a hammock on a beautiful desert island. That's not the issue, but it can feel easy and pleasurable and harmonious when you're working from home. And it's possible to do that by setting up the workspace optimally. And this can then support staff in implementing those more movement and more wellbeing practices and maximize the effectiveness of all these brilliant trainings that are being provided, because it makes it easier to implement them, and it makes them more integrated with the space that is there, helps support and enable those to actually happen. So how we can do this is by empowering staff to make these changes. And the move is from the traditional control of workspace to empowerment, empowering staff to have their own control over the workspace. And empowering staff can also help them to set up their workspace in a way that meets their own personal health and fitness goals. And this will help make sure that these optimization actions are more likely to take place. So this is the really big idea, that we're moving away from control and towards empowerment. And this is going to lead to much more motivation, much more motivated staff who are keen to excel. By making the workspace more supportive for a healthier and more enjoyable work life, that's going to lead to less sick leave, greater motivation, not only to work more effectively, but also to strive for higher standards of work, to climb to the summit. And you might be wondering, why me? Why am I the right person to do this? Well, hello, I'm Jane Leach. I'm an award-winning chartered architect, and I am the founder of iArchitect Limited. And I am very different to other architects. My approach is to give my clients control over their project. And I use a lot of innovative consultation and collaborative design techniques to do that. And I find that empowering them gives much better results. And how I can help? Well, in my background, this is me at my kitchen table. Way back in 2008, I was made redundant, and I had been working in this huge open plan office of the 5th largest international architecture practice at the time, working on multi-million-pound projects. And once I was made redundant, I decided to start working for myself, set up my own architecture practice. And I ended up being sat there on my own at my kitchen table looking for my first client. So I know I've been working from home for the last 15 years, working from my own home office. I've created my own home office. I've moved it around. I've readjusted it, redesigned my own space. And in the last few years, I have particularly found in the kind of work that I do primarily, which is redesigning homes for homeowners, I have found that more and more of my clients are working from home. And there are some common issues that arise. And it's really interesting, in particular, when there's quite often not just one adult in the family who's working from home, but there are multiple adults. And that adds extra complexity to the situation. So this is where my experience comes in. And what I can do to help you is I've created Optimise Your Home Office Your Home Workspace, which is a 60-minute online lunchtime workshop for teams working from home. This is not a completely new thing. This is something that I have been delivering for a couple of years to people who work from home, largely for small business owners who run their own business from home, like me. But equally, those people have all the same struggles that staff have when they're working from home. Alternatively, I can have a chat with you and we can create a bespoke package of architectural design support and guidance. And I would love to discuss that with you. So what's next? We can either have a chat and get you booked in for a lunchtime workshop, or we can have a chat and create together a bespoke package of support for you and your company and help you to better manage the situation so that you can have those healthier, happier staff who are working from home. Thank you very much, and bye for now.